What is going on, guys? Nooch is here. Back with my fantasy outlook for this week, week 11. This week, we're going to obviously be doing the normal stuff, recap, Storm Stidham, waiver ads, buy low, sell high, guys, and the trading center. So for my recap, the quarterbacks were a big oof. I want to apologize for that. You win some, you lose some, you know. I mean, I've had a few of my videos where my picks are outrageously good. I've had a few where I have a few rough spots, but I can't always be right. I think I'm a pretty trustable guy for this fantasy stuff. I think I've been way more right than I have been wrong. Sometimes you have your bad categories, and quarterback was mine this week. I was really wrong about Goff. After all these quarterbacks destroyed Seattle, he somehow put up a stinker. Baker, Locke, and Foles were terrible. Tua and Alex were okay. Very small W's. And even for my Stidham, like, Kirk did better than I thought. So did Teddy. I mean, Lamar and Cam as well. I was only right about Luton for my sits. Stafford had a great time. Like, wow, for quarterbacks. Running backs on the other side of the things, like I said, you're right sometimes, you're wrong sometimes. But running backs were fantastic. Gibson, big W. Hunt, McKissick, Swift, all huge W's. The rest of my starts were rough. I'm never putting Singletary or Melvin Gordon on one of these again. Let me tell you, they have broke my heart for the last time. My sit of the week was great. Devontae Freeman didn't play. I gave myself the L for Gallman. Burkhead, L. But then the rest of the three were good. I was right about saying John Taylor. I know a lot of people wouldn't have sat him. I told you guys to. I hope you listened to me. So yeah, and same with Kenyon Drake. A lot of people probably wouldn't sit him. I told you to, and it paid off. 9.9 is not something that you're like thrilled about starting. 8.5 for my record. For my receivers, we also did pretty good. 6 and 7. I put a little slash face, but I think that's pretty solid. It's negative, but it's not bad at all. We did good with the starts, especially. I thought Ayuk, Boyd, Shepard, and Allen were all good starts. Fuller was like literally barely an L, and same with Rieger. Like 8.8 is not going to kill you at all. Jarvis surprised me, though, with how bad he did. Marvin Jones really surprised me. He killed it. I benched him personally, so believe me, I'm living by my videos. Antonio Brown shocked me, too. I benched him as well. Slayton really did not have a good week. He had one big catch at the end that literally saved his fantasy week, which was really annoying because otherwise that would have been a W. Devontae Parker, I was right about. A lot of people would probably start him. I told you to sit him. It paid off. Myers shocked me against a tough matchup, and I was right about Richie James as well. For my tight ends, we did pretty poor, 4 and 6, but it's not as bad as I've done in the past with tight ends. I did okay. I gave myself some like generous L's and W's. I gave myself a W for anything that was above 6, and an L for anything that's above 8. So yeah, Ebron, I gave myself a big L. That could have been a tiny W, but 5.8 is not good enough for me, especially out of my start of the week. And then you could look on. We had Jazicki W. Ingram L. Reed was a big W. Hawkinson big L. I unfortunately had Hawkinson. Mark Andrews big L. And then yeah, our record was 4 and 6. Defense, we did 2 and 4. Wasn't great here either. The only things I was right about was the Vikings and the Packers. Surprisingly, that Eagles-Giants game was a good game, so the defenses didn't have a great time. Okay, so for my Storm Sim QBs, my star of the week is Ben. He just put up 29 in his last outing. He's going against weak Jacksonville, and for some reason they've been running away from Connor a little bit. I'm a Connor owner, so it sucks, but they've been like almost always throwing the ball. Now's the good time to trade for a guy like Juju, possibly. But yeah, Matt Ryan versus New Orleans. Matt Ryan's been really good. I think that game's going to be a shootout. I have Jameis if he's named a starter. Now, here's the problem. Taysom Hill might get named a starter. So if he does, I guess we could put Taysom Hill in this spot, but I don't really want to. I only have this really if Jameis Winston plays. That's why I said if named starter. Orlando's defense is a shit show, and we all know how good Jameis can be for fantasy. I have Cam Newton versus Houston. He's been really good. I have Justin Herbert versus the Jets. That's a no question. And I have Alex Smith versus Cincy. He just gave me a W last week. I think he's going to do it again. My sit of the week, I have Goff. He was just my star of the week. He shit the bed. I have him here as a sit of the week. Tampa Bay defense is really good. I have Derek Carr versus KC. Drew Lock versus Miami. Drew Lock is questionable, and Miami's been insane on defense. I have Luton versus Pittsburgh. Rivers versus Green Bay. Rivers has been better, but versus that D, I wouldn't do it. And then Carson Wentz versus Cleveland. Cleveland is surprisingly holding like teams to not many points out of nowhere. They were such a crappy D, and then all of a sudden they just held the Texans. So I don't know what's with them. I wouldn't start Wentz against them. My running backs, my start of the week running back is DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift has been balling, man. I mean, I was wrong about him. I had him as a sell high candidate. I traded him myself in one of my leagues, and I regret it. I mean, he is balling, and he is now officially the starter, so I would really hold on to him, and I would start him this week for sure. I have Josh Jacobs versus KC. I think they're going to have to run the ball a lot. I got Kalen Ballage versus the Jets. Ballage had a great week last week. This is a revenge game for the team that cut him. Chase Edmonds, a lot of people might start Drake. I would rather have Edmonds. I think Edmonds is going to have a good week on the passing front. Rex had a big week. I have him here versus Houston. I have Nyheim Hines versus Green Bay. They're a tough running D. I think Rivers is going to have to dump it a lot, so I would start him. And then I have McKissick versus Cincy. My sit of the week is Fournette. Right now, it's hard to start him. Rojo just had another big game. So against that tough running defense, I would sit Fournette. I don't know if I would even start Rojo, but definitely sit Fournette. I got Matt Breida if he plays versus Denver. I don't think they're going to be running a lot. Denver is probably going to have to shut them down on the run. I have LaMichael Pirine versus the Chargers. Don't start a Jets player. I got Todd Gurley versus New Orleans. This is a bold one. I'm rolling with it, though. Number 2 defense, why not? If you have somebody better to start, I would start them over him. You got guys like Hines, Burkhead, people who might not be rostered right now, you can start instead of Gurley. Jamal Williams versus Indy and Le'Veon Bell, even though he's going against a bad defense, I'm not trusting him until he starts getting more burn. For wide receivers, my start of the week is Mike Will. Mike Will's been popping off, and versus the Jets, I think it's just going to continue. I got Jacoby Myers versus Houston. Again, another player who's been popping off. Against that weak, porous defense, I would start him. I got Deontay Johnson. I wanted to pick one of the Steelers receivers, and I went with him this week. He's been balling while he's healthy. I think he's a good start. I got DJ Moore versus Detroit. I think he's going to finally have a bounce-back game. He usually has like a bad game and then a good one, and he had his bad game last week. I got Adam Thielen versus Dallas. Thielen, I think, is going to have a big week versus that porous D. I got Amari Cooper. He's playing against Swiss Cheese, and Dalton is looking like he's going to be back. So I think it's all the much better for Cooper. And people don't start him every day now, so I would start him. And I got Christian Kirk versus Seattle. I think Kyler is going to be throwing a lot. I think Kirk's going to have an enormous game. My sit of the week is another bold one. I got Mike Evans versus the Rams, the number 1 defense against receivers. I think this is going to be AB's game. I think he's going to finally break out. He started to show a hint of it this week. I think a hint of it last week. I think he's going to do it this week. I got Mims versus the Chargers. Mims has been better, but versus that D, 7th against receivers, I wouldn't do it. AJ Green has been better, but against Washington, the 2nd D, I would not do it. Corey Davis also had a great week. Would not do it versus Baltimore. I got Ruggs versus KC, and then Lazard. Lazard had a lot of hype before he got hurt. I would not start him in his first game back versus Indy. My tight ends, my start of the week is Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst has been beyond solid this year. He has a lot of consistent games. I think he's going to have a big one versus New Orleans. I got Mark Andrews versus Tennessee. Austin Hooper versus Philly. Jared Cook versus Atlanta. And Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is looking good with Alex Smith. I would start him this week. My sit of the week is Noah Fant. The Miami D has been too good, and Drew Lock is questionable. I would bench him. I got Greg Olsen versus Arizona. Robert Tonyan, who really slowed down, versus Indy. Tyler Eifert versus Pittsburgh. And Richard Rodgers versus Cleveland. My defenses, I have the Steelers versus Jaguars. That's a no doubt, no question. I got Dolphins. Dolphins D has been amazing. If they're out there, go get them. I'm using my first waiver priority on that. Chargers versus Jets. Jets are a shit show, especially with Flacco. Vikings versus Cowboys. I think Dalton will make his mistakes, even though the Vikings are a bad defense. And Browns versus Eagles. Browns D has been really good for some reason, so I would rock with them. Kickers, I think that should be rostered. Will Lutz, Younghoe Koo, Jason Sanders, and Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass is a little bit of a smaller name, especially. I think he had like 17 points or something this week, so yeah. And my waiver ads are really small this week. There's really not much out there right now, at least in my leagues. I put Michael Pittman. I think he's like a high draft pick. He was, I think, a second round receiver. People were really interested in him, and he finally had a breakout game last week. I would roster him. Ballage is still 48%. He might only have 1 week left in him, but he is a major start this week if you can go pick him up. I got Cam Akers. He got 11 carries this week. It's looking like he might finally start getting more burn. If so, he's worth a spot on your roster just to see what happens. And then I put Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has the tight end position right now. So here's something bold: is if ESPN has said that they will turn him into purely a quarterback if he starts playing it, but for this week they're not changing it, so he's a tight end. So even if he gets announced as a starting quarterback, he still has tight end designation, so you could potentially have a quarterback at tight end. So I would definitely pick him up this week and probably start him. My trade center. This week we have sell high. We have Dalvin Cook. Same reason as last week. The playoff matchups are bad, and we saw that a little bit yesterday. He slowed down a lot versus Chicago, and that's going to happen again in the playoffs. I don't know if you want that. I got Rams receivers. Too much going on right there. I mean, Reynolds is all of a sudden popping off now. So they have Reynolds, Woods, Kupp, Jefferson. Oh, too much. Way too much over there. I got Deontay Johnson. He's always hurt. I have him as a start this week, but I would not hold on to him if you don't have to. I think you can get good value from him, and I think you should. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, I got Kalen Ballage. Eckler's about to be back, so I would trade him off if you can. I got John Taylor, I got Ronald Jones, and I got Todd Gurley. John Taylor sucks. Get whatever you can out of him, honestly. And then I have Ronald Jones there because he's too questionable, but he had a big week, so you might be able to sell him high. And then I have Todd Gurley. The Falcons are just not reliable enough, and you might be able to get something better for him. Buy low, I got the injured guys, Chris Carson and Eckler. They can win you a fantasy championship if you trade the right package for them. I just flipped a trade. I traded Cooper Kupp, Cole Beasley, and Melvin Gordon. Beasley and Gordon will never start. I got Cooper Kupp. I traded him for Eckler and Joshua Kelly. Like, if you could package something like that for Eckler or Carson, do so. It's going to help in the long term. I have Connor. Connor has had 2 bad weeks, but he has a really easy playoff schedule. If you can buy into him, that's nice. I got Le'Veon Bell. I think he's worth the tiny flyer that he would cost right now. And then I got Edmonds because Drake is back. People might not think he has his worth, but he's the number 20 running back right now, even when Drake was healthy. He is a good guy to get. So yeah, that's it for this week's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. As always, the Trade Center is open. Please ask your questions in the comments. If you're new here, please say what's up. I really appreciate all the support we've been getting lately. It feels like the views are just going up and up, and the likes as well, and it really means the world to me. I put my heart and soul into these videos. I do a ton of research every week to try to help you guys out. Yeah, I really appreciate the support. Definitely leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys as always. Nutrius signing out.